Roll dice, be nice, and stay tuned. This is the Live to Die podcast.
Hello. Welcome back to the Live to Die podcast. I don't have a huge fun question for everyone, but I have a huge nerdy thing to talk about. We've talked a lot about remaster, and I've heard from some listeners just some general interest about remaster. I know there's a lot of folks that are kind of checking out what the remaster is like. And the truth is that the remaster is very, very much just like Pathfinder 2nd Edition, with a few tweaks here and there. Last couple times we recorded, the PDF, let's see, if I have it correctly, the last two times we recorded, 2 recordings ago, some things about Player Core 2 had hit the internet in previews.
Yep.
The time before that, we recorded the flashback episodes. The Player Core PDF was out. And now, finally, the Player Core is out and integrated into the softwares we use to build characters.
So excited.
And so I at least a couple of you have, because let's see, Jared and Jason, you were already, your classes were remastered in Player Core 1.
Yeah.
The Archer dedication was remastered, but honestly, it just changed the language to make it make more sense.
Okay, cool. So that's just easier. Jane is not in the recording for this episode, so Swashbuckler was tweaked a little bit, but I think we've talked about that some, or maybe we may talk about it a little more in the future. But Ryan and Trent, you have finally remastered your classes, which were Player Core 2.
Mm-hmm.
Talk us through the remaster for Champion and Sorcerer.
So from what I've seen, at least, there's not a whole lot of changes for Champion from a gameplay standpoint.
Sure.
Other than that, the Champion now has an aura for their reaction effects.
Oh, as opposed to just like always having to check through where like, is it within this many feet or this many feet of them? Now you just have an aura.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
And the things, the abilities of your champion now apply within that aura, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I was actually kind of reading quickly through some of the, fluff around it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was saying that if anyone is a follower of the deity that you ascribe to, they immediately know if they are within your aura that you are a champion of that god.
That's cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Isn't that really
That is cool, yeah.
That is concept?
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I think that's a weird, and like, I don't know, weird. I feel like that's a cool sort of update of the old like detect good and evil that used to project good or evil. Now you're just, if you are the same person, you have that like, oh,
Right.
They do want to hear
I
about.
can feel that power.
Oh, because then it would project anathema edicts instead of that good or evil. So I think that's interesting. I like it.
Yeah.
And there's a thing about sanctification. So like if you don't ascribe, or if you're not following the tenets of your edicts anathema, then you end up not being sanctified and you have to be re-sanctified, something like that.
Yeah, well, I think sanctified is the holy unholy thing.
Right.
And so that's not all gods are a part of the war between,
Sure.
heaven and hell. Like Erastil, for example, I'm not sure Erastil even offers sanctification as an option. But it certainly isn't required one. Some deities, like if you're a champion or cleric of Iomedae, you are getting sanctified.
Yeah.
You are sanctified holy.
Mm-hmm.
But there's plenty of deities that are like, shit ain't my jam. Then there's some that are like, could be, sometimes get involved. It's not my thing. So I think that's kind of cool that you can sort of decide to pick up this bonus that's only going to be sometimes useful against some creatures, but then a weakness that will also only sometimes show up against some creatures as well, if you want to get into that flavor.
That's kind of the bigger stuff.
Did you tweak any of your things? I know we talked a little bit about, because like they've no longer is it just like the blade ally or the something. There's now like 3 ally choices, right? You can have a shield, a blade, or like make yourself speed walk quicker.
Yeah. To be honest, I haven't looked that deep into that stuff yet.
I just pictured Arthur like power walking in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Full.
It's where he excels.
That Malcolm in the Middle episode.
Yes.
It's so good. Them power walking.
Oh man, I haven't thought about that show in a while.
It's a great show.
I'll kind of extend a little bit of a grace period post remaster if you want to dig back in and make some tweaks.
The only thing that I noticed was I got a little bit of a red flag around the Shining Oath thing that had to do with some of the last wall stuff, like in your champion's reaction enhanced against undead, I think.
Yeah.
I think there may have been a tweak about like, well, you have to be sanctified in order to take this. So I'll have to kind of like look about whether Sorrow's Sword as a
I mean, that might be a GM call.
Take it. Yeah.
I think, like right now, and if we can look it up and it may say differently, they may have put out a list of sanctified, unsanctified. I just don't know if it include the niche stuff like Sorrow's Sword. I'll say that's certainly an option. I feel like Sorrow's Sword is in the last wall shit, so I don't know that it's what I'd say it's required, but I bet it's 100% an option for you to be sanctified.
Cool.
I feel like Arthur probably is, given his whole background.
Yeah, I would think so.
All right. Ryan, I know you did a little bit more than just look through.
I did a little bit more.
You wanted to kind of take advantage of some of the new tweaks or like they just pivoted out of an area you were.
They kind of pivoted out, and I didn't even realize why at first when the player core came out. I was a nymph bloodline sorcerer, which is essentially just the druid. It's like the very vanilla druid sorcerer.
Cool.
And when it came out, I was like, oh, my bloodline didn't make the cut. But really it was just that it was an advanced player guide bloodline, which will probably come out in player core 14 or something like that. So
yeah, they've got to have content when they start getting into the double digits.
So I'd say before I get into my new bloodline, the biggest things that I noticed is that dangerous sorcery, a feat that most people took but forgot to use.
Everyone forgets to use it.
Is now just built in. So now that's just called sorcerer's potency. Your bloodline spells, I think they're called sorceress gifts now. So like it's just like Jason's talking about with the cleric, like the language is tweaked to just completely get away from certain things.
From a certain dragon game?
Yeah, from a certain dragon game.
Could be anything.
Could be any game.
Play anything else.
Yeah, play literally any other game. It doesn't have to be this one, but try any other game. It'll be the best thing you've done.
I have 30 different games on that bookshelf over there.
Yeah, so many games. So the biggest thing I did, because I'm just a huge nerd and I really, really like what they're doing with Player Core 2 and I appreciate the reasoning they're doing it. So I want to be 100% remastered. So I did change my bloodline. I went back and forth on this a lot. So I did take the elemental bloodline and now I'm elemental earth. So there are going to be some changes in spells. I did lose, like I don't have calm anymore. And instead of calm, I have like pummeling rubble. I'm still very druidic. Smacky the Frog is still going to make regular appearances on this show. That's super, super important to me. And there are, I think the biggest thing with sorcerers is because bloodlines were kind of like the biggest thing you could do to customize your characters. The sorcerer feats were kind of, people were like, they're kind of lame. So there are some cool new sorcerer, like especially lower level stuff. Yeah.
It seems almost like, from my reading of it, they kind of gave, and it doesn't seem like it's as articulate as like the barbarian, but it seems like the sorcerers kind of almost have a like zone they can get into. Like there's certain ways to transition into a state based around their blood magic that then affects a lot of other things or gives them additional abilities.
And I think that was another reason that I decided to shift out of the nymph bloodline, because I didn't use my bloodline, my blood magic very often, and I never used my focus spells. So there was just some stuff that I just thought that this could be more fun, more thematic, and Jonas being an archaeologist, when I was like, hey, if I picked an elemental bloodline, I was talking to Jason about this. I was like, which one? He was, and before I get Earth, before I could even finish the question, and I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So story-wise, and this isn't like a spoiler, you'll see Jonas kind of getting dirty. He's kind of walking around on his freshly pressed Eddie Bauer stuff, and now he's found like a place he wants to be. So you'll see him getting his hands dirty a little more.
Does he have one of those fleece vests?
Yeah, one of those fleece vests, just like zipped up all the way to the top. He's got his white Stan Smiths on that have never, he's
truly marking him as a millennial.
100%,
yeah, I've had some of those moments now where things I wear, I'm like, man, this is just major millennial
vibes.
Since we're kind of on the topic, for those of you who've been in the remaster for longer now, just any thoughts to share with listeners on remaster? I know we've joked a lot about the spacious pouch. I still to this day keep fucking up calling spells like, oh, that's a rank 2 spell. But it is infinitely easier to communicate when you're like, 100%. Oh yeah, at 5th level, you gain access to rank 3 spells. Like that is, I saw someone the other day talking about the dragon game, being like, oh yeah, well at 5th level, you get 3rd level spells. And I was like, Jesus, trying to teach this to someone who's never played a game before, that just makes zero sense.
I think it's better. I think the remaster is making a game that we already enjoyed, and there were some holes in it, but there weren't many. but it's filling them and it's making things easier to understand. It makes me like Paizo more because they take that kind of stuff that the users bitch about and like do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just like that they're starting to differentiate themselves from that system completely. You know, there are obviously similarities, you know, as we all know, the history of the game. But just that differentiation is nice. And it is hard to get used to at first. But I think that, you know, the more you dig into it, the more natural it becomes. I ultimately like it.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much this is true for them. And like, obviously a part of it was to get away from OGL stuff and to like make sure that they weren't going to have copyright issues. But one of the things that's been interesting to me is I wonder, I'm sure they always hoped that Pathfinder 2e would be successful.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a number of things in the original, like the vanilla 2e, legacy 2e, that were almost sort of like affectations and throwbacks to the people that played 3.5 Dungeons and Dragons and played first edition Pathfinder that just had like a lot of similar nomenclature. Because like even talking with Lauren about making a 2e character and that with the remaster, she was like, it threw me off that I don't have ability scores anymore. And we're like, yeah, to this day, I still build characters with ability scores just because it's ingrained. I wonder how much of that was Paizo being like, hey, let's keep some of these affectations so it's an easier transition. But like, I wonder if it's been that like Pathfinder 2 has been broadly successful enough that they're like, hey, we don't need it to feel as similar as it used to.
Yeah.
And they kind of maybe my hope is that maybe it gave them some confidence to say like, fuck it, let's just ditch that shit.
Yeah.
The cleric is so much better in remaster.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like so much better.
And the cleric was already awesome in second edition.
Just from playing Dom when second edition first came out when we were playing online.
Yeah.
And then playing Nikolai before the remaster came out. And then after, it's like cleric's fucking rule.
I think the biggest thing about cleric, and I've seen people complain about your healing number or the healing spells you get not being connected to your charisma score. But I think that just chained you to being like such a full-time healing role. And the clerics these days can do so much more than just that.
And they become the face of the party because they already have a high charisma.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Forces you to be a face.
Yeah,
forces you to be a face.
I don't have any diplomacy training.
I feel like it frees up clerics to be a lot more dynamic, both as a class, but also into their relationship with their god. Because like if you're a god of like, I don't know, being a bastard, I'm sure there is literally a Pathfinder god that's like, hi, this is the god of being an asshole. Like, it doesn't make sense that they would necessarily have like a high charisma. Like, it's kind of cool that you can just build, like, you need your wisdom in there. But then the fact, I still cannot get over how much I love no longer having like class skills and cross-class skills.
Yeah.
Because it is just so much cooler that like, all right, I need these for my functionality. When you're like, I'm just going to pick shit that like takes this character in a whole new direction. Anyway, we're already like 10 minutes into the start of this.
All right, enjoy this week's episode. Bye.
See you guys. Bye. Have a
Thank
great
you
week.
for listening to Live to Die podcast. We talk about what we like about a game we all play a lot.
Without playing the game.
Yeah. Well,
trust us, it's good.
I feel like that's a great time though for us to go over to talk about someone who maybe doesn't like all of you.
Is this about Jane?
No, Jane likes all of you.
Talking about it.
No, because last we left, we were about 4 months post your resolution of the werewolf sitch. There was a couple of plot hooks that were dropped.
Is it resolved?
Could be. That's a plot hook that was dropped. There were some other plot hooks that were dropped, though. I mean, who knows? Might be digging up some old memories, coming back around, and I don't mean to shed any black tears, but you know, there's a lot that's happened so far in this game. Thank you. I was mildly proud of that.
I liked it.
But you're about 4-ish months post that. You spent some time exploring some of the hexes around you, getting it prepped as you expand it. You've started building a road towards the trading post up north, as well as connecting you to the main trade route. But you've got this whole Grigori thing going on. Let's just kind of check in with not so much big picture, what you're all doing in the kingdom, because we did that last episode or two, but let's talk a little bit about what your next couple of weeks might be looking like, sort of looking ahead to the next kingdom turn. What are your characters doing a little bit outside of kingdom turns that may be setting up kingdom turn interests? Because we have a couple of unresolved plot leads. We do know that the Black Tears are potentially fucking with you a little bit. there is Grigori going on. Maybe that's connected, maybe that's not. And you are just starting to get a little bit bigger. You've had more people showing up. You've had groups coming around. What's going to be kind of your focus for the next week or two of your characters? Whoever goes first, and then we'll go clockwise from there. But don't everyone talk at once.
I think Lucky is in and out of the kingdom. I think he's got some personal interest stuff going on that he is traveling for. And then additionally, he is, finding certain times to just sneak away.
Like a full moon?
Could be
something
anytime.
like that.
Well, who's to say, really?
It's easier to see at night. Yeah.
You were up in Brevoy, and you were the one who kind of found out that you saw like the black tears like thing fucking with your stuff.
Oh yeah.
Do you think you'd be doing any like hunting around, trying to find out as you're doing work in another kingdom, keeping an eye on that? And obviously, Ari would also be keeping an eye on that too, but you're kind of in a position as a character.
Right. I think that I am periodically traveling that way anyways. And so, just touching base every time I'm in, gathering rumors, that sort of thing. Not like deep investigative, is that a word?
I think so.
Yeah.
Is now.
Dives, but, just getting cursory rumors, making sure that I'm at least a little bit knowledgeable of what is going on or sightings, etc.
All right. Trent, what do you think Arthur's up to what's he focusing on for the next week or two?
So I think he's going to be drafting a letter to the Lastwell Knights, kind of saying, "Hey, I'm not coming back." And as well as sending.
Here's my 2 weeks.
Here's my 2 weeks notice.
Already served.
Sending some notices out to other knighthood organizations, saying, "Hey, we have a budding nation that we're building. And
some
if
spare
there happens to be anybody about who has lost ties to their organization and needs somewhere to go, that sort of thing."
That's so cool.
That's an awesome idea.
A bunch of Ronin
That's
knights
a really
rolling
great
up.
idea.
That's badass.
God damn it, already.
I was gonna try to lobby for him to get a patch for that, but yeah, that's pretty good.
That's because there are a lot that are like the diaspora around and fallout from the whole what's the fucking big lich's name in the
Yeah.
Yeah, I can never remember.
The Whispering Tyrant?
that
guy.
Perfect. Yeah, legally not a Sararak.
Right.
Yeah. Jonas, what are you working on for the next couple of weeks?
I think the next couple of weeks, Jonas, and I mentioned this in the intro, is going to be,
getting dirty.
as people are expanding and people are building new settlements, just kind of touching base, like, hey, where are you from? What are you doing? What stories do you have to share? Likewise, I'll be sharing stories with people and then helping, people get set up or whatever they're building and in and around, and really for probably the first time in a long time in Jonas's relatively long life, not wandering and enjoying kind of a semblance of home, as it were.
So I think what I'll say is that while you didn't call it out, that is kind of in line with some of the pushing back against Grigori stuff.
For sure. And I think I'll be using diplomacy to gather knowledge and just to kind of keep my ear to the people and who's coming. Why are you here? What things are you expecting? What goals are you hoping to achieve while you're here and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I think you'll
be being the admissions guy?
Yeah, I'm like the INDOC guy.
Yeah. Just doing your real life job.
Yeah, doing my real life job.
Okay, look, we've all ended up doing that. I think I've talked about in the podcast, reading through the really wonderful legendary games books and being like, oh, there's rules for running a town meeting.
I think Lucky is also kind of relying on Jonas to, when he's out, check in on all the business ventures, all of the building, all of that, make sure things are running smoothly. Though he doesn't necessarily prescribe to Jonas's friendly demeanor with his diplomacy, he certainly respects the different approach, and I think he relies on him for that when he is in and out.
Well, that sort of is a little bit of your role in the kingdom too, is sort of
100%.
Maintaining the work of projects and working with them. All right, Nikolai, Baron Nick.
And Lucky also shared the information that he found.
Oh, yeah.
So just to put that out there in case people were wondering.
I think just to add to that, through my diplomatic channels, be using that, be like, oh, hey, just kind of slapping hands and stuff. And
Power the dab?
Power of the dab. It's a very, very strong thing.
Look how good we're being.
Yeah, look how good. Well, not necessarily that, but just to try to also like sow good intent, but by trying to figure out, are there other people that are attempting to infiltrate and do us bad? You know?
Cool. So I'm going to say your focus is on more the Grigori than the keep aware, but
100%.
you do have that as a thing. Nikolai, what's Baron Nick up to?
He is going to be continuing to interact with the hunting and fishing and agriculture groups to make sure that stuff's going well. But he's also going to be like,
Snoop Fisher?
Yeah. But he's also going to, when he has meetings, the morning or 10 o'clock meetings or whatever, focusing on this part at the end where he makes a point to look out at the crowd and like ask what is bothering you. Like that's his new big thing. Like what
Public
he turns
comment.
it into a public comment to try and curb the Gregory.
You
or the
don't know what
Grigori,
you just started.
Well, this is my first time being a Baron.
Can we just have like a brief conversation about
Public comment?
the Grigori situation?
Yeah.
Because I think Lucky would want to talk to Nikolai and just say like, hey, we found this information. Clearly people are out to sabotage what we have going on. We need to do something about this. And I think that the people need to know that we've done something about this. And A, to kind of stem off this people from being so brazen about it. And B, to kind of give you a chance to show leadership. And I don't know what that looks like for you. And I don't have strong feelings one way or another. But I think some sort of justice needs to be done. Some sort of
Did we find
action
out
needs to be taken.
the name of the people on the list? It was
People
like
on what
you
list?
said, like parties interested in it not doing well. Was there a list of people?
No, so it was specifically abstract. It was like a note to himself in his ledger that was left abstract, and all the payments were coming in via trade goods, so it's not directly traceable.
I do believe some sort of justice is necessary.
I think this is a good opportunity to define what that looks like for you as the leader. Is that something that you dole out? Is that something that you assign to someone else?
That is a very good question.
What, do we want to let him know that we know? Or do we want to just let the people we know? Do you want to put that stuff back in his room with like a note that says, I know?
Should we
what you did last summer?
Monitor him very closely and try and figure out who's behind the efforts?
It's a good point. I mean, we could certainly take a more investigative approach.
Because, I mean, if we just cut his head off today, then we're not going to know who it was. And
they'll send more.
And then they'll just send somebody else.
Or it's a chance for us to establish that we are savvy and
that's true.
We keep our eye out for these sorts of things and that it's not going to be tolerated.
Sowing discontent.
Has he broken any specific laws?
I mean, aren't there laws about talking shit about us?
Not.
Can we make those laws? Because he was specifically talking shit about me and Ari and hurt our feelings real bad.
That gets into a very sketchy realm.
Free speech is pretty important.
I would say it's important.
My question is, should he be arrested?
I don't know. I'm kind of looking over the documents. Is there anything that is like a direct,
like a damning,
like
thing.
piece of evidence or something that some particular action that there is evidence surrounding?
Or does he just have an incurable case of being a bitch?
I think we should keep an eye on him for a little while and see what else he does.
Yeah, that would be my vote.
Yeah, I second that. Is that how it works? He brings it up, and then I second it, and then we have a vote?
Whoever seconds
We're
it.
like talking about this guy in a public meeting.
No, this is clearly executive.
What do y'all think in the audience?
Executive session.
It's
He's in
executive
He's in the
session.
front row listening.
I think it is important to question him,
Should we kill him?
Actually,
not in front of the group.
so this is one thing I do want to ask. I don't want to take away from the role-playing scene because I'm loving this. But given that you kind of kicked this off, Lucky, where do you think you would have approached this? Obviously, this isn't a public meeting sort of moment.
Right.
Just like, you don't need to be hyper-specific, but just give me a little bit of where you kind of encountered Nikolai. And it sounds like the couple others maybe walked into this.
Or we may not be there.
Yeah, I mean, I think initially, if people are there, that's fine. I think it's probably just following some sort of gathering. People are leaving or have left.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of have a small aside with Nikolai, just saying like, hey, this is what I found. We need to do something actionable. We just need to determine what that is.
That makes sense.
And kind of putting that pressure on Nikolai a little bit. He's been a very likable and accommodating ruler so far, but I also think that this is an opportunity for him to branch out from that a little bit.
We cut a guy's head off.
Yeah, but wasn't that at the
It was actually technically in
at
this
the fort?
building, which is where you are now.
That was before we had established anything.
Yeah.
That was an entirely different kingdom.
Yeah, look, that's a dark moment of a heroic.
It'll be at the
It's part of
Alamo
the
tour.
history.
Like
It's
they'll
really
talk
history.
about it at the Alamo tour for sure.
The founding beheading.
That's right.
The first of many to come. It is interesting, not to like spend too much time getting meta about it, but I
Right.
feel like we play a lot of, and I'm a big fan of running tradition of more heroic. In Pathfinder, I like to run heroic stories. Give me a different game, totally different fucking story. We're playing Cyberpunk again. It is
Oh yeah.
at best questionable.
Yeah.
But I think this is interesting because a lot of Pathfinder is written for heroic adventures. And while we all kind of agreed that, especially with us like leading kingdoms, that there are some like, we're not telling a story about like gleeful despots. I think it is a very interesting change in the dynamics to be like, well, now we're talking about government. And all of us would nerd out enough to be like, I was really glad all of you showed restraint, because as soon as you said, isn't there a law about that? I'm like, Jesus Christ, our whole episode's going to be like, well, let us write a charter of laws.
I looked at Trent when I said that and was like, I feel like he's going to rattle off a bunch of laws here in
Yeah,
a second.
that's a side project.
Yeah, I think it'd be wonderful.
Trent's going to come back and just drop like an 800-page loose leaf thing onto the table, and it just starts, there is a specter haunting Shadowshield.
So are you like
good with that.
King's Guard or more like a City Watch
I mean, I think
thing?
I see the marshal or general
Yeah.
Marshall.
as like defense of the nation.
Okay.
For sure.
So we don't have anyone that's policing per se.
I think because the nation is so small,
small,
at this
we haven't
point,
had that.
It's kind of what we are, but
But as we get bigger, we might have to look into something like that.
yeah.
He probably's umbrella over both at the moment, but he's doing both jobs as it is. And once we get bigger, we'll have to establish, okay, you're specifically in this color robe and you're in this color and so on
But
and
we
so
don't
forth.
need police, so
No.
Well, that policing is like the word I used, but like someone that
yeah.
when we're not here and someone stabs somebody, that they arrest that person.
Right.
I will gladly go and handle that myself. Yeah.
All right, so let's pivot this over then. Let's go back to the scene that Lucky set for us. That was Syrinscape.
I know. I
really
looked at
came
everybody
in.
like,
Syrinscape.
who
We're
just
at a public meeting.
right into the mic.
So let's go back to
There's not open drinking in the public meeting.
there is now.
Sorry.
So Lucky, you've grabbed like people are heading out after your morning town meeting. It's Jesus Christ. You have like a mid-morning siesta. You're like culturally, everyone stops work so that we can, as a community, discuss issues at about 10 a.m. So Lucky, you pulled Nikolai aside. You've had that little conversation, and Jonas and Arthur are nearby. Are there any further in-character talks about Grigori or next steps that you want to have?
I think the only other thing Lucky would say is like to Nikolai specifically is like, if you're not comfortable being the strong arm, so to speak, I think you have at least one person in the party that's willing to be that. And I kind of like gesture over to Arthur.
And he's just standing there like,
He's eating fish on a stick.
yeah.
But as he bends the fish up to a stick, his bicep is just ridiculous.
And like, that's an opportunity that's a conversation you probably need to have with him. But, that would make his public office very, there'd be a lot of eyes on him and he would be seen in a specific light.
That is interesting thought. Until now, we haven't really had many problems since we got rid of the bandits. But I suppose this is part of a growing nation. Arthur, how do you feel? And what is your opinion of how to handle Grigori?
My advice would be to wait until a moment where we have done something very good for the community, and then in the afterglow of that, to put to the community itself, do you want this man to stay and continue to foment issues among us?
I mean, you certainly could have some sort of trial as well.
Yeah, and in the interim, you keep an eye out for more evidence. I think that's probably the best thing, too.
Yeah,
I mean, what we have, I wouldn't consider it damning, but it's not, the burden is on us.
Nikolai looks to Lucky and Jonas and says, do you have anyone who could keep tabs on him? Or Arthur, is your mother around?
Yep. She's right there.
Arthur's mother.
She's like standing beside her.
I did not see you there.
I think Ari
She's
is
always in the
capable as
motel.
well.
I can...
What'd you say?
I said I think Ari is capable as well.
That's
sure.
true.
Mm-hmm.
That would be interesting to have Ari and your mother, like, fucking stalk this guy around town.
Yeah, they could talk about my childhood.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
They could.
You just got a little Schwarzenegger there.
They could talk about my childhood.
If you play another champion, it's got to be a
Arnold
Schwarzenegger champion. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that we have enough to like throw him in irons or put him on trial yet, but it's definitely worth keeping tabs on Grigori. And not just Grigori, but the idea that there are more than one group of individuals that could be rooting against us.
And even though I generally take the high road, I have nothing against someone also walking the low road, keeping an eye out while I'm, shaking hands and whatnot.
In any way to keep track on correspondence in and out of town.
Arthur's mom can try and honeypot him too.
Yes.
Fair enough.
She's open to it.
Yes.
I also
Jason's like, yes. Nikolai's like, what? That's very inappropriate.
Blushes immediately.
Pulling on his collar. It's getting hot.
It's getting hot.
well, and keep in mind at this point you're starting to assemble like a pretty noteworthy like coterie essentially of NPCs and other PCs in town, because you've got Amiri's in town, Lindsay's in town. What's the fucking Jubilost? He's around. You haven't heard from the dwarf. You've heard maybe he's come in and out of town. The Gorim priest.
His name is Haram.
Jathal, she's been through town, but she's not a regular. And then you've got
Valerie?
she's come through town, but not stopped,
Okay.
but not hung out. Other folks that are in town though still is you have the rest of the Dagger Mark crew. Well, almost. So you've got a brother and sister.
Yep.
And
Oh yeah. I was like, who's
Bartabas.
that? And then I remembered.
Bartabas, and then
Holman
and other Holman. Your brother.
What's his name? I don't remember.
I feel so bad. Matt, I'm very
That's
sorry.
the other. Sorry, Matt.
What's going on?
Matt's character though. You've been
What
Holman's
is his
brother.
character's name?
I don't remember.
Matt, call in. Let
It's
us know.
like Sebastian or something. Yeah,
Maybe.
can you just call us right
It
now?
was a
Hurry
pretty
up.
boy name.
Yeah.
So they're all in
He's
town.
so sad right now. We love you, Matt.
God, I'm so sorry.
You're gonna
Yeah.
cut it in whenever you edit this.
Yeah, I'm just gonna edit it. And it's just gonna be like a hard, like all the background noise will drop
Be
out.
like a narrator. The narrator will cut in and be like, the name was this.
That being said, I did see a great fucking TikTok the other day of someone listening to an audiobook, and it must have been like a lower-ish in production because this didn't get edited out, where the narrator is going through a big twist in the book, and the producer is listening, and you hear from like way off mic as this twist happens, oh shit! And it's just
so
still
good.
in the audiobook.
I love that.
But additionally, I'm also thinking about other things, and like I think because we made it to the flashback episode, I even like to imagine that Letitia is even remembering like, there is that old orc with the spear that owes me a favor down in Daggermark, because I feel like the two of them totally know each other from way back in the day. Because honestly, that flashback was
yeah,
it
he
30
does.
years ago? It's probably back
Wink.
when Letitia was give or take in Daggermark.
They're probably about the same age too. Oh damn! I'm just about to have a new
And
stepdad.
knock Akandayo.
Oh fuck! Knock Knock's in town. Knock Knock's around. Ekandayu.
Alistair.
Alistair, thank you
yeah,
so
yeah,
much. That's
Thank
right,
you,
because
Matt.
it gives me Major the Vampire from Baldur's
Yeah.
Gate vibes.
Yeah.
Astarion.
Oh, yeah.
Did he just message you? See, this happens
I'm
live.
texting him. Yeah,
Just
Nice.
like, Matt, get it right
Text
now.
Matt, tell us. Alistair, that's right.
Alistair, fuck. Like I said, it's a pretty boy
Yeah.
name in the best possible way. You're right. And then there's also Meekmek.
Yes.
Meekmek, like you have, I've always wanted to do a campaign that spent enough time in an area where like you have all these characters and they show up, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean,
What
like,
if we just had Knock Knock and Mick just like hang out around his stall for a little while?
Oh God.
He'll probably want to pack up and go. Not that I don't love both of them.
I think Knock Knock would take
Yeah.
care of the issue for us, whether
Yeah.
we wanted him
That's
to or
probably
not.
true.
Yeah.
well, we haven't had time to play it out on air yet. I think we know that canonically it's in this time that a merchant caravan comes through and you're able to pick up some other folks in town that have done some security work if you need to hire that in or out for a little bit. Take care of that big, horse-sized snapping turtle.
That's right.
Never heard of it.
And
Crack
I
jaw.
cannot remember his name. There is Snoop Fisher.
Snoop Fisher.
Arvin. Fuck, God, you were on top of it with the notes.
I just rewrote all my notes into a different book yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
That's why I know it all.
But you know what? You know who else is in town that we've also named? Let's not forget Christoph and Floric.
Ah, yes. The
The
lumberjacks.
Oh, the
the
lumberjacks.
bandits turned lumberjacks turned werewolf hunting support.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can probably tell them they can stop doing that now. You can go back to chopping down trees.
Lumbering all that jack.
I mean, you never know when another werewolf's going to show up.
True.
Yeah, it could be anything.
They cannot be part
Probably
of the.
won't happen.
They cannot be part of the authoritarian regime that starts arresting and
Right.
beheading
No.
people.
Totally.
No.
It seems like a bad move, bad optics.
Bad
Yeah.
PR.
So after all those wonderful role-playing scenes, though, I'm gonna move us to a little bit of crunch, just a light bit of crunch. Like we're not to like an extra crunch peanut butter. This is like it's still a Jif or something with a lot of sugar, just a little bit of crunch in there. And so let's get some rolls out of what you did. So I'm gonna say it's gonna be a gather information for you, which is I believe a secret check, Jared. Now that you're level 5 now, right? I don't have to make that
Yeah,
joke as like a
yeah.
shitty. Oh, you're not. You're actually level 4. Let's get your diplomacy out for me. Trent, I'm either going to want a diplomacy or an appropriate lore check for you to write other knightly orders.
Like warfare lore?
Actually, that would 100% allow
yeah.
allow warfare lore for that. We'll have a diplomacy when it comes to you, Jonah, and Nikolai. I will allow either diplomacy or religion because you're specifically talking about engaging with the community. So I would allow an Erastil, a cleric of Erastil there. Yeah, Trent, yours will be an open one because it isn't hidden
it's
if you write this letter. What's your diplomacy, Jared?
Can I use? So I have a skill feat called Eyes of the City.
Oh fuck! 1
Which
second,
allows
dude.
me-
Wait.
Explain it because that shit is dope. And it's from the remaster, right?
Yeah, I think it is.
I think Eyes of the City is from the remaster.
That's also
It's
just such a good
fucking
name.
sick.
It is a great name. Eyes of the City. So you can track down targets with the help of locals. You can use diplomacy or society whenever you're trained. Whichever you're trained in to track creatures
Ooh.
and settlements. You chat with locals to help follow trails of creatures you track. I don't know if that is that appropriate here.
It's a Lord Varys.
I mean, I feel like you are trying to
So
track
good.
down the involvement of the
Yeah.
Black Tears. So I feel like
So
I'm okay
good.
with this. It's a bigger picture track. It's like a cultural tracking, but you are trying to
Yeah.
figure out where they're at. I would 100% allow that. Eyes of
like-
City. That's so cool.
So I'm using
Gary, go follow that guy.
Yeah.
Honestly, you know what this is as a real throwback? First Pathfinder game Trent and I played together. We've talked about it a lot. It's Curse of the Crimson Throne. And Trent played an Urban Ranger.
Yeah.
That variant. And they
Yeah.
talked a lot about how like they would use tracking differently. There's actually a phenomenal, oh God, this is going to get real nerdy. There's a phenomenal issue of Dragon Magazine back in 3.5, or it may have been back in 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons. And it talks about urban druids and urban rangers. And it's where they introduced that alternate thing. Because remember, Paizo's always been the shit and had the best fucking
Yeah.
writers. And half the shit that later became canonical Wizards rules was shit that was either written or tested out first in Dragon. The
Yep.
best, coolest fucking magazine. And they talked a lot about how maybe tracking for rangers wouldn't be, in Urban Ranger, wouldn't be literally looking at footprints. It'd be doing exactly this. So I love seeing that show up as a skill feat. Oh, that's just so fucking cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And so I have a plus 11 to society.
Jesus fuck.
Nice.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Trent, what'd you get on Lorefare?
Warfare lore was
Lorefare war.
16 as an expert, sadly.
Okay. Well, it's a lore. It's not the most convincing letter, but you'll send out to the people you know. Okay, Jonas. Let's let's talk a little bit about your downtime activity of fight propaganda. This is concentrate and downtime. It's not secret.
Mm-hmm.
Go
it's
ahead
not secret. Cool.
and give me that diplomacy check as you're working with the people.
Don't mind if I do.
I do mind. Just kidding.
Natural 1.
Yes.
Ooh, I can give you a patch.
I'll take it.
I actually
I'll
have
take
another
it.
one, so I'm going to keep this.
Yeah, you've got a couple.
That's better. 28 total.
All right, you shift the support in your favor, your genuineness of getting down in the dirt and working with people. Whereas before they were like, oh, I feel like these folks are just kind of trying to placate us. They're like, well, look at him. You can tell he's not a king. How's that? He's got shit all over him.
Yeah.
We like him. He knows how to get shit on him. Look at those Stan Smiths
I've been like
covered in mud.
There's
When
some
I f-
lovely filth over here.
when I first got to the boat in the Navy, you like get to the boat from submarine school and you're like, your uniform's all pressed and everything looks nice. And I just remember the guys in the boat all looking like shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to look like that.
Yeah.
So that I can fit in. Got paint all over me and my LPL was like, what's going on? I was like, everybody looks like this. Like, what's the big deal?
Yeah, we all look like shit.
Yeah.
Someone pointed out on social media the other day, and it's hard for me to unsee now, that like a thing that makes a lot of contemporary, especially TV shows on streaming, look a little shitty, is that all of the outfits and costuming look like Halloween costumes, like in that they look like they've never been worn before. And it's something like certain shows do really well, but I'm sure there's a reason, but every time I just wish I could go back in time, somehow be involved and just feel like, go in a dirt gravel parking lot and just give me like 15 rolls.
Just toss those shits in the dryer for
Just
2
put them,
minutes.
just wash them 6 or 7 times.
Wasn't that like a story from The Witcher where
He rolls around in the dirt.
he's like rolling around in the mud, and the costume designers were like, "Dear God."
And he's like, he's a traveler on the road. He's not clean.
Yeah.
They talk about how much he stinks all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, you make some stuff because you're willing to get dirt on you. You get some work done. I imagine that the part of that is working on some of the projects and just helping build some of the buildings in town. You've got your inn at this point would have come finished, and I think you've started on a couple of other buildings in town that we've talked about, but we don't really need to get into the finer details of that. Jason, you're also doing some stuff. Give me an open check. I'll let you use religion as you're essentially doing your own version of sermonizing.
30.
Jesus fuck. Not a crit, but that's another point. You're up to support 2. In general, people are like, well, maybe this Erastil's onto something. It is weird how he dresses up, tucks in his shirt every day, wraps and puts a tie around his neck and goes door to door asking us about Erastil, but he does help us with anything we need done in the house. Just any fucking thing. And our barons out there just helping out just as long as he can tell us about what Erastil has to say.
Have you heard of Erastil's Grace?
You got to get some of those aphorisms just ready to pop out. All I know is was it adventurers or fools or something?
Do not suffer fools.
What's his other aphorism?
And then,
the book's around here somewhere.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Anyway. All right. So you're all doing pretty good. Obviously, Trent, no one shows up in the next 2 weeks of like, I have...
And Arthur is crushed. He's
So
like,
sad.
I
So
failed.
sad.
I failed.
never trust a fool. That's it.
Actually, you know what I am going to say? 2 people do show up. 2 people that are just kind of like people who are just looking to do good. And you don't even meet them. Like they hear about yours and they're just working out in like so that you actually hear stories get back to you through the crews that are working on roads. And it's 2 folks with the same name, no relation.
Oh.
And all you hear is a really big one and a really small one. They've been doing it for years. You've heard stories, folk tales of them occasionally, these 2 that just kind of go around and help people out, just sort of kung fu style.
Incredible.
And you've heard there's been a couple of small like issues in the road, and this big, like an ox of a man even, and this just like very with it, very wise little small person.
Oh, it sounds very weird.
Yeah. You've heard that they've heard that there's been a call for assistance and a place for people to help.
Vicinian Fezzik.
Yeah, gung and gung.
Yeah.
Oh, gung and gung.
Yes, the gungs, as it were.
The gungs.
You hear that they've shown up in some of the distant work camps and helped with small things.
Okay.
They love answering calls for help. All right, but here's the big thing, Jared. Lucky gets word that the Black Tears are funneling some money and moving some stuff. You're not sure what the right connection is, but you hear a couple of things come up. You hear drugs and emerging markets, the emerging market of Shatter Shield. And you hear just a single name, the midwife. And that's all you hear in connection with it.
Okay.
And that's kind of what you're able to pick up through. That's what your sources get back to you. Oh, what's the fucking bit from like Lord of the Rings where like whispers, the words come back, Shire, Baggins, or whatever. Like the words come back, drugs, the midwife.
Is it weed or is it meth? Because it's different.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's moth.
Yeah, I bring that to Nikolai first.
So where would you kind of, you're back in town. It's been a week or two since that last meeting. Where do you catch Nikolai? Where do you look to find him?
I'll probably catch him in the evening, like after everyone's kind of retired, and just kind of go knock on his door and be like, knock, knock.
Enter.
Okay. I enter.
Oh, Lucky, hello.
Hey, back in town. Got some information about some seedy activity with some old rivals, the Black Tears.
Those are the ones from Lady Germandis.
Yeah, that was up and about that area. Talk of an emerging market in Shatter Shield, specifically surrounding drug activity.
So is this an illegal market?
Yeah, I would assume so. It doesn't sound on the up and up, really.
Okay. Do we know who's organizing these markets? Is it the Black Tears? Are they reaching out to someone in town?
Hard to say, but there's someone in town with just the name, the Midwife.
Nikolai's like racking his brain, wondering if he's ever heard that before, but I don't think I have.
Nothing comes to mind immediately, but you can kind of keep that there.
Something to be aware of.
So we'll cut away
Nikolai
from
doesn't like that a name like the Midwife is being used as a criminal name.
Yeah.
All right. We'll cut away from that. We'll kind of go into not quite a kingdom. We'll go into some like downtime moves. So next little bit of focus from everyone. Where does that come? Where do you want to put it in? Someone jump up and then we'll go clockwise from there. You know, we'll go counterclockwise this time just to really mix it up.
Whoa.
You chalked first, Trent. What are you doing?
Ah, crap. He'll put in some heavy training with sort of the what we can call a militia, but probably not actively is a militia.
Okay. Cool. So you're going to spend some time getting people prepared to defend themselves.
Yep. Work
with it. I like to imagine a lot of the faces that we just, like a lot of the named characters we just mentioned are all showing up. I think in particular, Meekmek and Knock Knock are like there. And like Knock Knock has not been mellowing out, but he's been spending a ton of time with that Gandayu, and the two of them are kind of weirdly hitting it off. And he does have a lot of respect, like for you as a hero and the way people talk about you. And he wants people to see him the way they see you.
Aww.
And so he's out there training pretty hard, and Meekmek's just like down to clown. But they're out there. Kristoff and his buddy, they're there too. They're like definitely like trying to prove like we're not bandits anymore. We're very, very sorry. We are just lumberjacks.
I always use them as the sparring partners.
Yeah.
I want none of this and none of this.
Yeah.
Just like poke him in the
There's
eye.
always the chance, like, just holding that blade just a little bit from the throat every time. Like, look how easy this would be.
And I feel like Kristoff's like, oh, he always picks me. We have a real connection. All right, so you're working on that. Counterclockwise now. Lucky, what are you doing?
Yeah, Lucky, I think, he just got back into town and is just working on oversight, making sure that things are running smoothly, that money's being allocated to what it needs to be allocated towards.
Mm-hmm.
Diving a little bit probably back into the all these rumors that are surrounding this emerging market, the Midwife, Grigori, all of that. But
okay, yeah, kind of investigating. I'm actually gonna have you make a kingdom check for me in a second.
Okay, and yeah, I think just kind of attending to his duties, so to speak.
Wonderful. Alrighty. Okay, Nikolai, what are you doing?
Pretty much the same stuff. Preaching, going to meetings. I am asking maybe a little bit more like leading questions when I'm around the hunting and fishing group about the name the midwife or whatever. But one day after hunting, you see Nikolai and he's like, you can tell he's nervous and he's got something in his hands. It's like a pelt. It's like wrapped up. And he walks up to this woman who's part of the hunting group and he's like, I got you this. And he hands her the pelt and kind of runs off.
Wow.
She unrolls it. What's
It's
it?
just a
Just a
pelt.
pelt.
It's just a pelt.
Is it a nice pelt?
It's a nice pelt.
All right.
Oh, damn.
She does the like chin out smile nod. All right. All right, finally, Jonas, what are you focusing on the next couple of weeks?
I think I'm going to take some direction from kind of like actually setting up like a check-in group and probably grab the two guys, the
Christoph?
the recurring characters that are super funny that I love. The lumberjack and the fisherman.
Christoph and his buddy.
And I want to get them involved with helping people set up. Like I imagine random people come in and just, oh, this spot is just open. I'm just going to set up a tent here, but that may not be the best spot.
Helping them find the lots they need.
Picture-wise, like, yeah, this is a good lot, and this is why, and this is going to be the flow of traffic, and this is kind of the vision that we're looking at. So I'm looking at either architecture lore or, or even diplomancy again.
Diplomancy.
Yeah.
Classic magic.
Yeah, classic.
The old
just
magics.
to kind of, I want people to feel welcome, but like, I think this turn will be less about gathering information and more about actually viceroying and setting up actual infrastructure in the town. What's our population now, and how fast is it growing?
I'll have to check that. It's growing pretty substantially.
I think if people are pouring in, like even if it's if we're seeing.
Okay, so we're a little behind on the population. I need to update that. I feel like I did the math for this at one point, and I don't fucking have it. But hi everyone.
I didn't get the population size. I can look at that too. It might have been in Ultimate Cities.
It is. It's based on the number of buildings we have, but we've added a couple since then. Your population is going to be several hundred now.
Okay, yeah. I mean, imagine there's probably, if there's even more than one new person a day showing up, somebody could be there to help them. So I feel like I want to recruit those two people.
Nice.
Not just because they're like diplomats, but because they have actual tenable skills that could be used to help people set stuff up.
All right, so you'll work on that. So let's kind of roll this out. Trent, you're going to train. You're working on that. We'll start getting to the kingdom rules for armies later, but I think you're going to start out with some bonuses just from amount of downtime on that.
Cool.
All right. Lucky. All right, let's start with you, Ryan. Just say everyone's name. But Ryan, let's do another diplomacy check as you're just kind of making good.
Open?
Yep. You're going to do, this is still technically combating propaganda.
17 total.
All right.
Probably not great.
Comes off a little harsh to people, you lose a support. You're down to just one again. Make some bad impressions.
I'm like too helpful. I need you to move your fucking tent right now.
They're like, it's just weird. I just wanted to like come into town and now like people are trying to be my friend. All right, let's hop over to you, Lucky. Lucky, give me a... Actually, this will be a secret check again, but same thing. You want to use like Eyes of the City?
Yeah, totally.
All right, so that's a plus 11, right?
Yep.
Look at me remembering numbers. Okay. Oh, actually, no. So here's the thing. Yeah, so you're going to get some more information. You're just asking around about, like, so you're not getting a whole lot on the drug stuff. There's a lot more people coming into town. There is some more money moving, so you suspect there probably is some illicit market showing up, but nothing finite. You imagine there are probably a few players. You find the names of like several people in town who have helped with a couple of births that have happened here in the first few months, but the truth is there's not a ton yet. Nothing's immediately standing out. Now, Lucky, here's the thing. We're going to kind of move out of you in person space, and we're going to move over to Nikolai, and we're going to have you make a kingdom roll.
Ooh.
So this is going to be a folklore roll to like sort of understand the people and what's going on there.
Okay.
This is a culture check. This is under the family of culture. You would have had time. It sounds like you've been focusing a lot on culture. Is your kind of choice here if you've been focusing in these kingdom turns of either culture or like loyalty or stability. Definitely not economies, because it is the kingdom you can kind of pick.
It's like telling people what we're about here in Aestes and
So you'll get a
Shadowshield.
+4 on this roll.
Okay.
Tell me what you get. I have the kingdom's character sheet open here. So you're going to
14.
do. Okay. So while you're paying attention, you're bringing people out on like hunting and gathering. Some of the first farms are starting to get set up. So I imagine you're even like making some trips out there, teaching people. You're offering like day classes, little seminars, farming and you.
On Saturdays, we do a composting class.
Love it.
On Wednesdays, we wear pink.
Like building worm farms.
Worm farms.
You're an
worms.
extension agent.
Yeah. Well, here for the Shadow Shield Extension Office.
Yep.
It's troubling to you that you're starting to pick up a few things, and you think that maybe you wouldn't have connected the two unless you were thinking about like motherhood or birth in those places. You start to hear sentiments, maybe not full-on aphorisms, but things that are only 1 or 2 words removed. Things that make you think back to something you've heard before. Now we're going to go back to a Nikolai check. So now you've heard these things.
Okay.
To see if it comes to you. What's your religion? We're going to do a recall knowledge on religion.
11.
And let me shift to some darker music. You got a high roll here.
Yeah.
And let's go down to spooky. Because as you come home one day, you're sitting in your room and you're thinking back what people talked about during the day. And you realize that you heard some sentiments and some things that are really close to the aphorisms of Gyrona.
Okay.
Now, do any of you recognize that name? I think, Ryan, we may have talked about this particular god a little bit.
I do not.
No idea.
Okay.
Yeah? You want to tell us, Jason, what you, Jason, know?
I remembered that she has to do with hags. That's what I knew.
Oh, yeah.
The hag goddess.
The hag goddess.
Gyrona.
I would know. Definitely that would pique my...
Yeah. And you even remember, you've heard some tales of, let me see if I can find my exact notes here. You remember hearing stories about cults of Gyrona and the way that they have like slowly set townsfolks against each other, sowing discord, spreading propaganda, and turning people one against each other.
Do I know what those people get, like how and where those people gather? Like Erastil gathers in the Longhouse. Like, I know that.
You don't off the top of your head, no.
Okay.
Like there's not like a really traditional one. It's kind of different. Being a smaller cult, traditionally smaller cults, like they don't tend to operate out in the open. So it's a lot more like situation to situation for sure.
Is there a public library with a computer that I can Google stuff about?
Yeah, no problem. I think you just got dial-up at your building.
You have to put a dime in to make it work. All right.
But I will say something does come to mind for you. Don't you remember what your town hall used to be?
I was just about to say, look, man.
Yeah, so like, how would you share this with anyone?
So I think once I put it together, I would go find probably Jonas first. And knock on your door or whatever, come in your room.
Hold on.
It's embarrassing.
Come in. He's doing drugs in there.
I go in. It smells like weed in here. Have you ever heard of the deity Gyrona?
I think Jonas would kind of look at you like, is this a real question? You know where we're at, right?
Exactly.
This fort before the Stag Lord took it over? Like the Gyrona cult used to live here.
I believe they have returned.
You think they returned?
Well, think
do you know
about
this?
the edicts of Gyrona, tearing down the community, sowing discord. It feels as though someone has come to retake their temple.
And I think Jonas, being kind of like a overly positive guy, would be like, well, doesn't that kind of happen everywhere? Or do you think this is really what it is?
I do. I cannot explain it other than I have a really strong feeling that this is connected.
No, it's totally fair. I'm all about the feelings. Does this have to do with the handmaiden thing?
The midwife.
Isn't that what I said?
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing, right? No, it's really not. Midwife. Yeah.
The midwife.
The midwife.
It is what I think they are related.
I want to make like a Ryan. Ryan has an idea, but I kind of want it to be Jonas's idea. So I'm going to as
well, you
the
are
midwives.
Jonas.
Does this have anything to do? Gyrona, midwife, babies. Is this a Lamashu thing or is it I'm not really sure.
I don't believe so. I mean, Knock Knock has been here since the beginning.
I like that guy.
I do too. I didn't
like
at first, but
he's grown on me.
And in a pinch, he's good to have.
Yeah.
He saved our lives.
Yeah. Did you see he brought back 2 boars the other day by himself? It was crazy.
It was wild that they were still alive, but
what were we talking about? They were still alive. Oh no, wait. Yeah.
Maybe we should do some more investigating into the temple that used to be.
No, I think so for sure. And I think like you might like catch like some darkness pass over Jonas, like thinking about the specific cult and just like kind of. So yeah, I definitely think we should look into that. That's not something we want to let stick.
No. And then I think I'll go and share it. We don't have to play this out, but individually, like similar things to Arthur. Like, hey, tomorrow when we get up, this is what I heard. Gyrona, I talked to Jonas. Do you have anything to add?
I am conflicted.
About?
Because almost everything that I learned in the last Wall Nights and from my dad was about how important it is to reclaim a lost homeland. So I kind of understand from their perspective.
It is a unique situation that we took from a group of bandits, what had already been taken from a religious group.
Yeah.
I think I would have added that the graveyard, like that's who's buried there.
They did try and kill us.
They did.
Whenever we approached that.
Jonas would also know that like this was like a temple to Gyrona, or this was like a monastery to Gyrona, like
right.
hundreds
of
years ago.
Yeah.
Is this an unholy
You know what, Trent?
deity?
I think answers to questions like that and more are going to be best resolved by tuning into next week's episode.
Come on. Already? We just got here.
The Live to Die podcast is a production of Live to Die Gaming. Follow us on social media at Live to Die Pod. Leave a review and tune in next week for more. If you like the amazing background audio and music, all that credit goes to Syrinscape. Make sure you check them out at Syrinscape.com.